When law, that supposed bulwark against chaos, turns its attention from genuine threats to petty, glorious human absurdity, something snaps. The world transforms into a bureaucratic funhouse, a place where a smile is mandatory, a belly is a state concern, and a pig's name is an act of treason. This is the Ledger of Legislative Madness, a curated global tour of 50 statutes so nonsensical they could only have been born from a deeply serious desire to control the uncontrollable. Welcome to the global theater of legal farce. 1. The smile tax of Milan, Italy. In the chic, high-fashion heart of Milan, a frown isn't just a mood, it's a potential criminal offense. A city regulation, a relic from the old Austro-Hungarian Empire, mandates that citizens must have a smile on their face in all public places. The only officially sanctioned exceptions are when you're attending a funeral or visiting a patient in a hospital. It's a magnificent monument to forced positivity, a time when the government decided emotional expression was a matter for city ordinance. While the happiness police aren't dragging grumpy commuters off the tram, the law remains on the books. A legal demand for perpetual, slightly unsettling Italian cheer. 2. The Pig-Napoleon Act of France. In a nation that cherishes its history and revolutionary spirit, one cannot, under any circumstances, name a pig Napoleon. This law dates back to a time when any perceived ridicule of national symbols, even in the form of livestock, was viewed as a direct threat to the dignity of the state. The legislation was designed to preserve the honor of France's most iconic, short, and historically complicated emperor, apparently even in the barnyard. So if you were planning on naming your porky pal after the famous conqueror, think again. In France, the only thing more offensive than insulting Napoleon is serving him with a side of applesauce. 3. The Great British Pub Paradox. In the United Kingdom, it is illegal to be drunk on the premises of a pub. This isn't a modern health and safety footnote, it's a magnificent piece of legislative self-parody from the Licensing Act of 1872. The law makes it an offense for the owner to permit drunkenness, and a separate offense for the patron to be drunk in a public house. This creates the most glorious paradox in the entire legal world. An establishment whose sole purpose is the consumption of alcohol can be penalized if its customers successfully achieve that purpose. It's a law that is brilliantly, beautifully, and Britishly absurd, perfectly capturing a national talent for making simple pleasure overly complicated. 4. The Compulsory Canine Commute in Turin, Italy. If you own a dog in Turin, you are legally required to walk your animal at least 3 times a day. Failure to do so can result in a fine of up to 500 euros. This isn't just a friendly suggestion from a vet, it's a legal mandate passed to combat animal cruelty and ensure every canine citizen gets adequate exercise. This wonderful rule also creates the hilarious possibility of a police officer stopping you on the street to ask, "Excuse me, sir, but has this poodle been properly exercised today? I'm going to need to see your walk log." It transforms every dog owner into a potential suspect in the crime of insufficient playtime. 5. Norway's wealth-adjusted Wince speeding fines. In a magnificent display of social equity, the fines you pay for speeding in Norway are based on your income. This day fine system calculates the penalty based on a person's daily disposable income, ensuring the punishment stings just as much for a wealthy CEO as it does for a regular worker. In 2015, a millionaire businessman was famously caught going just 14 miles per hour over the speed limit and was handed a ticket for 54,000 euros. It's a system that turns a simple traffic ticket into a powerful, financially painful statement on social equality, proving that in Norway, even your lead foot has a progressive tax bracket. 6. The Unscheduled Joy Ban of Sweden. In Sweden, you need a government permit for spontaneous dancing. If a group of people suddenly starts dancing in a public place that doesn't have a specific dance ban or dancing license, it's technically illegal. This law, which has its roots in the 1930s, requires bars, restaurants, and clubs to hold a special permit. While it's rarely enforced on random citizens busting a move in the street, it's a legendary piece of bureaucracy that perfectly captures the idea of organized fun versus a state-sanctioned crackdown on unscheduled joy. 7. The Naked Ramblers Reckoning in Switzerland. Your dreams of achieving true oneness with nature by going hiking in the nude in the Swiss Alps will have to be shelved. It's illegal. This isn't just an unspoken social rule. It's the result of a federal Supreme Court ruling that came about after a German man was fined for strolling through the Alps completely bare. The court decided that the tradition of naked rambling was a violation of Swiss public decency laws. In orderly Switzerland, even rebellion must be properly clothed, proving that the nation's passion for precision applies even to what isn't worn. 8. The Bouncing Pickle Benchmark of Connecticut, USA. In the state of Connecticut, for a pickle to be legally considered a pickle, it must bounce. This isn't folk wisdom. It's a standard enshrined in law following a very real case in 1948, where 2 men were arrested for selling pickles unfit for human consumption. In the ensuing legal battle, the state's Food and Drug Commissioner famously declared that any proper pickle, when dropped from the height of 1 foot, should bounce. This simple, elegant test became the legal benchmark for pickle integrity, implying the historical existence of a pickle inspector whose solemn job was to drop pickled cucumbers and take notes on their elasticity. 9. Denmark's common sense legislation. In Denmark, it is illegal to start your car if there is someone underneath it. While this sounds hilariously obvious, it is a real specific law in their traffic code. It's not just about the result of hitting someone, it's about the act of ignition itself. The very idea of needing legal guidance for such a basic safety step is both hilarious and terrifying. It's a testament to how thorough Danish legislation is. They've literally outlawed starting a vehicular manslaughter attempt before it even begins. 10. The prohibition that wouldn't die. Iceland's beer ban. In Iceland, beer was completely illegal until March 1st, 1989. This wasn't some ancient forgotten law. It was a 74-year-long prohibition that lasted for most of the 20th century. After a nationwide vote in 1908, all alcohol was banned. While wine and strong spirits were eventually re-legalized, beer remained forbidden, partly because it was strongly associated with Danish culture. Iceland was fighting for its independence. For decades, you could legally buy a bottle of vodka, but a simple pint of beer was treated like dangerous contraband. 11. Japan's mandatory belly check. The Metabol law. In a stunning example of government-mandated health intervention, Japan introduced the Metabol law in 2008 to combat metabolic syndrome. It requires companies and local governments to measure the waistlines of all employees between the ages of 40 and 74 annually. The limit is 33.5 inches for men and 35.4 inches for women. You're not jailed if you're over the limit, but you are given diet guidance, and your company can face financial penalties for failing to meet reduction targets. It is a terrifyingly intrusive or brilliantly proactive health plan, depending entirely on your love for cake. 12. The Wi-Fi felony of Singapore. In the hyper-modern city-state of Singapore, connecting to another person's Wi-Fi without their permission is not a minor inconvenience. It's considered hacking under the Computer Misuse and Cybersecurity Act. The penalty can be a fine of up to $10,000 or even 3 years in prison. The next time you think of borrowing a bit of your neighbor's unsecured network, remember that in Singapore, that simple act doesn't just make you cheap, it makes you a felon. It's a powerful reminder of how seriously the nation takes digital boundaries. 13. The Unjust Vexation Clause in the Philippines. In the Philippines, you can be charged with unjust vexation. This is a real criminal offense. The law is incredibly vague and can be used to prosecute someone for any action that unjustly annoys or irritates another person. It acts as a legal catch-all for irritating behavior not covered by other laws. Playing your music too loud? Unjust vexation. Cutting someone in line? Unjust vexation. It's a law that essentially allows you to sue someone for being annoying, which might be the most brilliant legal concept ever invented for the perpetually irritated. 14. The Banned Emojis of the UAE. In the United Arab Emirates, it is illegal to swear or make rude gestures in public, and this law explicitly extends to your text messages and social media. Using the middle finger emoji in a WhatsApp message is not just rude, it could be interpreted as a violation of the country's cybercrime laws, potentially leading to jail time, a massive fine, or even deportation. It's a sobering reminder that in some parts of the world, your choice of emoji carries a weight you never imagined. imagined. Think before you text. A simple cartoon hand could shatter your life. 15. North Korea's forbidden fabric. In a chilling display of fashion as political defiance, wearing blue jeans is illegal in North Korea. The totalitarian regime considers denim to be a symbol of American imperialism and the corrupting influence of the West. Along with other capitalist fashion choices, wearing blue jeans is considered a violation of socialist principles. Government-sanctioned fashion police patrol the streets looking for anyone who dares to wear the forbidden fabric, making a simple pair of Levi's not just clothing, but a dangerous and subversive political statement. 16. The blasphemy trap of Indonesia. In Indonesia, the penalty for blasphemy against any of the 6 officially recognized religions is incredibly severe, with a maximum sentence of 5 years in prison. The law is so broad and vague that it has been used to prosecute people for acts that seem trivial elsewhere. A woman was sentenced to prison for merely complaining about the volume of a mosque's loudspeaker. It's a chilling example of how a law intended to protect religion can be used to brutally suppress personal expression and turn everyday complaints into a state offense. 17. The underwear mandate of Thailand. It is technically illegal to leave your house in Thailand if you are not wearing underwear. This law is one of the most famously bizarre and anxiety-inducing statutes in the world, primarily because of its impossible enforcement mechanism. How would anyone even know? Is there a special division of the Royal Thai Police dedicated to panty patrol? While it is almost certainly an archaic law that is never enforced, it technically remains on the books. A perfect example of a law designed to create maximum psychological discomfort with minimal chance of ever being used. 18. The yellow threat of Malaysia. In a surreal fusion of fashion and politics, it is illegal to wear the color yellow in public during certain political protests in Malaysia. The color became the unifying symbol of the Bersih movement, a coalition demanding electoral reform. In response, the government officially banned any clothing or materials associated with the movement, effectively declaring the color yellow a threat to national security and public order. People have been arrested simply for wearing a yellow t-shirt at the wrong time, turning a simple fashion choice into a powerful, if unintentional, act of political defiance. 19. The cold case of contraband. Japan's drug laws. Some of the most common over-the-counter medications in the West are illegal in Japan. Due to the country's incredibly strict laws against stimulants, any products containing pseudoephedrine, an ingredient found in things like Sudafed and Vicks inhalers, is considered a controlled substance. Unsuspecting tourists have been detained and even deported for bringing them into the country. It's a genuinely frightening prospect where your innocent attempt to fight off a common cold could accidentally turn you into an international drug trafficker, all because you just wanted to clear your sinuses. 20. The filial piety mandate of China. A law passed in 2013 legally requires adult children to visit their elderly parents. Known as the Elderly Rights Law, it compels children to visit their parents frequently and tend not just to their financial needs, but their spiritual needs as well. This is not just a suggestion. Parents now have the legal right to sue their adult children for emotional neglect. It's a fascinating and somewhat desperate attempt by a government to legislate filial piety, turning a sacred family duty into a legally enforceable mandate in the face of a rapidly aging population. 21. The Boulder ban of Boulder, Colorado, USA. In the city named Boulder, it is hilariously illegal to have a boulder on your lawn. A city ordinance forbids residents from rolling, placing, or leaving any large rocks on their property, unless it is part of a planned landscaping project. You have to appreciate the sheer, glorious irony of a city council meeting where officials in a town called Boulder solemnly voted to declare boulders a public nuisance. It's bureaucratic self-parody at its absolute finest, a municipal war against its own namesake. 22. The one-armed piano player's plight in Iowa, USA. In the state of Iowa, it is against the law for a one-armed piano player to perform for money. This is not a joke. An actual state law singles out this very specific group of musicians and forbids them from charging for their services. This bizarre rule raises so many questions. Was there a fierce turf war between one-armed and two-armed pianists? The law doesn't forbid them from playing, just from getting paid for it. It effectively turns their musical passion into a legally mandated and uncompensated hobby. 23. The Fuzzy Dice Felony of 9 states, USA. Those fuzzy dice dangling from rearview mirrors represent pure Americana, retro cool in plush form. But in at least 9 US states, including Virginia and New Jersey, they're completely illegal. The law isn't about dice specifically. It bans anything hanging from mirrors that could obstruct the driver's view. This magnificent regulation criminalizes not just the fuzzy dice, but the pine tree air freshener, your parking permit, and even religious medallions. Critics argue that these statutes, while well-intentioned, often serve as pretextual reasons for selective traffic stops, proving that your innocent decoration can be a legal liability. 24. The mandatory voter of Brazil. In Brazil, voting is not just a right, it's a legal obligation. For all literate citizens between the ages of 18 and 70, voting in elections is mandatory. If you fail to vote and don't provide a valid justification, you can be fined. More importantly, you can be barred from obtaining a passport, getting a government loan, or even being hired for a public job until you settle your debt with the electoral courts. It's a system built on the philosophy that democracy is not a passive activity, but a duty the state can and will force you to perform. 25. The Camel Corps Relic, Nevada's highway law. In Nevada, it is against the law to ride a camel on a public highway. This law is a fascinating relic from one of America's weirdest military experiments, the U.S. Camel Corps. In the mid-19th century, the U.S. Army imported camels to use as pack animals in the desert Southwest. The Corps was ultimately a failure, and the animals were sold off or simply released into the wild. They began to roam the desert, occasionally wandering onto newly built roads and startling horses and drivers. The law was passed to deal with this specific, strange historical problem. The camels are long gone, but the law remains, as a lonely monument to America's forgotten military menagerie. 26. The unarmed camouflage ban of Trinidad and Tobago. In Trinidad and Tobago and several other Caribbean nations, it is illegal for any non-military personnel to wear camouflage clothing. This isn't a quirky fashion suggestion, it's a serious matter of national security. The law is strictly enforced to prevent civilians from impersonating soldiers and to stop criminal gangs from using military patterns to create fear and confusion during illegal activities. That trendy camouflage jacket you think is a cool fashion statement could, in the wrong country, be interpreted as a criminal act and land you in a world of trouble. 27. The Chickens Crossing Conundrum, Georgia, USA. In the state of Georgia, it is illegal for a chicken to cross the road. This fantastic law doesn't target the poultry, of course. It places the legal responsibility squarely on the chicken's owner. The ordinance was created to compel farmers and other animal owners to keep their livestock properly penned and off of public streets and highways. Still, it effectively kills one of the oldest jokes in the book. Why did the chicken cross the road? In Quitman, Georgia, it didn't, because its owner would have faced a hefty fine for letting it get that far. 28. The Painted Ladder Precaution, Alberta, Canada. In the Canadian province of Alberta, it is illegal for a business to paint a wooden ladder. This isn't an aesthetic choice, it's a serious safety regulation under the Occupational Health and Safety Code. The reasoning is that a coat of paint could hide dangerous defects in the wood, like cracks, splits, or knots, that could cause the ladder to break under weight. It's an incredibly practical rule that sounds completely insane until you get the context, protecting workers from the hidden dangers of a beautifully painted but structurally unsound death trap. 29. The Great Water Gun Ban of Cambodia. The government of Cambodia has banned the sale and use of water guns during the traditional Khmer New Year celebrations. The holiday is famous for its massive, joyful water fights in the streets, a way to cool off in the April heat and wash away bad luck. However, authorities claimed that high-powered water pistols were causing public disorder and traffic accidents. So, while you can still splash people with buckets and hoses, the tactical precision of a super soaker is now considered a threat to national stability. 30. The Ugly Face Act of Oklahoma, USA. In the great state of Oklahoma, it is illegal to make ugly faces at dogs. This law was reportedly enacted to discourage people from provoking or teasing animals. But it sounds like a cartoon rule come to life. Imagine a cop issuing a ticket for pulling a face at a pug. It's both hilarious and deeply American in its specificity. Next time you're tempted to grimace at a golden retriever, remember your facial expression might be committing a misdemeanor. 31. The witch's altitude limit of Eswatini, Swaziland. In the nation of Eswatini, formerly Swaziland, it is illegal for witches to fly their broomsticks higher than 150 meters, about 490 feet. This incredible rule is reportedly part of the country's Civil Aviation Authority regulations. It doesn't ban the practice of witchcraft, but it does subject it to altitude restrictions, just like a drone or a small aircraft. It's a breathtakingly pragmatic approach to ancient superstition. A modern government looking at a traditional practice and deciding, fine, you can do it, but you need to stay out of commercial airspace. 32. The mandatory generosity of duelists in Paraguay. In Paraguay, the practice of dueling is legal, but only on one bizarre and morbidly practical condition. Both participants must be registered blood donors. A 1992 law decriminalized the act of settling disputes of honor with weapons, but lawmakers included this strange provision. The logic, if you can call it that, seems to be that if you're going to engage in an activity that could potentially remove blood from the community, you should have the decency to put some back into the system first. It's the ultimate buy one get one free deal for civic duty and personal vengeance. 33. The casino ban for the locals of Monaco. In Monaco, the world's most famous gambling destination, it is illegal for its own citizens to gamble at the Monte Carlo casino. The rule was established by Prince Charles III back in the 19th century. His brilliant business plan was to use the casino's massive revenues to fund the entire principality, eliminating the need for his subjects to pay income tax. To protect his own people from losing their fortunes, he simply banned them from playing. To this day, citizens of Monaco are forbidden from entering the casino's gaming rooms, the ultimate VIP club where the locals aren't on the list. 34. The bride's legal shield, South Australia. In South Australia, it is a criminal offense to intentionally disrupt a wedding. If you're the bitter ex who dramatically storms in to object during the ceremony, you're not just creating a scene for a romantic comedy, you're committing a crime. This offense carries a potential fine of $10,000 or up to 2 years in prison. The law effectively tells anyone with last-minute doubts, if you have an objection, you better be prepared to make it in front of a judge. It's a powerful legal tool for ensuring that your big day isn't ruined by anything less than a genuine emergency. 35. The Husband's Dental Decree, Vermont, USA. In the state of Vermont, women must obtain written permission from their husbands to wear false teeth. This archaic law dates back to the 19th century, when male control over household matters extended even to dental prosthetics. While it's no longer enforced, it is technically still on the books. The idea that a set of dentures needed a husband's seal of approval is both absurd and disturbingly revealing of the times. It's dental patriarchy in legal form. 36. The livestock's right of way, South Africa. In South Africa, you are legally required to give way to herds of livestock on public roads. This isn't just common courtesy to a farmer, it's the law. The country's Road Traffic Act gives animals being herded, including cattle, sheep, and goats, the official right-of-way over all vehicular traffic. It's a very practical law in a nation with a large agricultural sector, and it serves as a modern-day reminder that sometimes a traffic jam can be caused not by a fender bender, but by a very slow-moving and legally protected flock of sheep. 37. The water-saving urinator, Portugal. In Portugal, it is technically illegal to urinate in the ocean. While it seems like the most unenforceable law ever written, it exists as part of the country's maritime and port regulations. The logistical nightmare of proving such an offense is absolutely staggering. It suggests a world where the Portuguese Coast Guard has a specialized division equipped with high-tech thermal imaging and water salinity sensors dedicated solely to hunting down aquatic offenders. Their motto, you can run, but you can't hide your sudden change in body temperature. 38. The Elevator of Faith, Israel. In some observant communities in Israel, it is illegal on the Sabbath, Shabbat, to turn on a light switch or even press an elevator button. This is based on a strict interpretation of Jewish law, which forbids creating or igniting a fire on Shabbat. To circumvent this, many buildings have Shabbat elevators that automatically stop on every single floor, so no buttons need to be pressed. This religious custom has become a fascinating intersection of ancient faith and modern technology, creating a weekly, slow-moving, and entirely button-free journey through residential buildings. 39. The crime-free escape, Mexico. In a fascinating legal quirk, there is no law against escaping from prison in Mexico. The country's legal system operates on the principle that the desire for freedom is a fundamental human instinct. Therefore, the act of escaping is not considered a crime in itself. However, you will almost certainly commit other crimes during your escape, like property damage, assault, or bribery, and you will be prosecuted for those. But for the pure, simple act of running away, the law basically shrugs and says, we get it. 40. The widow's veto, TV license fee in Norway. For years in Norway, you were required to pay an annual TV license fee if you owned any device capable of receiving public broadcasts. This law was interpreted to include not just televisions, but also computers, tablets, and even smartphones, because they could technically stream the state broadcaster's content online. Even if you never watched a second of their programming, the mere ownership of an iPhone meant you owed the government money for a service you didn't use. It was a bizarre potential viewing tax on the simple ownership of a modern device. 41. The Censored Hero, Canada's comic book ban. In Canada, it was once illegal to make or sell comic books that depicted crime. This wasn't about censoring gore or adult themes. It was a bizarre war on the entire concept of a superhero. In 1949, a bill was spearheaded that amended the criminal code, making it a crime to publish any comic that graphically portrayed the commission of crimes, real or fictitious. Under a strict reading, a comic showing Superman stopping a bank robber was illegal literature. The law, born from a moral panic, effectively destroyed the country's domestic comic industry for decades. 42. The Coded Commute, the Philippines number system. To combat the apocalyptic traffic jams in Manila, the government implemented a number coding scheme. This law bans cars from the roads one day a week based on the last digit of their license plate. If your plate ends in a 1 or a 2, you are legally forbidden from driving on Mondays. It's a permanent, legally enforced system of grounding for your vehicle, turning your daily commute into a high-stakes game of weekly roulette, where the house, the government, always wins. 43. The Unaffordable Internet, Cuba's old law. Until very recently, it was illegal for most citizens in Cuba to have a private internet connection in their homes. For years, the government maintained a strict state monopoly on all telecommunications. Internet access was limited to absurdly expensive state-controlled Wi-Fi hotspots, usually in public parks. An hour of service could cost a significant portion of an average monthly salary. It was a stark example of a government using information control as a powerful tool of political power, turning access to the modern world into a punishable and unaffordable offense. 44. The Windows-only office, Germany's labor law. In Germany, almost every permanent workplace is legally required to have a window with a view of the sky. The country's incredibly specific workplace regulations state that workers have a right to sufficient natural light and a visual connection to the outside world. An entirely internal office with only artificial lighting is generally not allowed for permanent workstations. This isn't just a nice to have, it's a legally enforceable right that beautifully encapsulates a national philosophy. Even when you're on the clock, you have a fundamental human right not to feel like you're working in a submarine. 45. The doormat exemption, London's beating ban. In London, it is illegal to shake or beat any carpet or rug in the streets after 8 a.m. This rule from the Metropolitan Police Act of 1839 was a desperate attempt to bring order to the chaos of a filthy industrial city. Before this law, the air would be thick with dust and grime, as thousands of households beat their rugs simultaneously. The law also forbids beating your doormat, but it grants a special exception for doormats before the 8 a.m. cutoff. It's a charmingly specific rule from a time when even clean air was on a strict schedule. 46. The Forbidden Names List, New Zealand. In New Zealand, you cannot name your child Lucifer. The country's registrar of births, deaths, and marriages has the authority to reject names that are deemed too offensive or impractical. Over the years, they have compiled a list of officially banned names, which includes titles like Christ, Messiah, King, and Justice. Apparently, Lucifer was also a popular enough choice that it had to be officially forbidden. It's the government stepping in to save children from a lifetime of explaining their parents' questionable sense of humor. 47. The Drunk Cow Commander, Scotland. In Scotland, it is illegal to be drunk while in charge of a cow. This is not a joke from a postcard. It's a real law from the Licensing Act of 1872. It was originally created to prevent intoxicated farmers from causing chaos with their livestock on public roads and in marketplaces. The law also applies to being drunk while in charge of a horse, a carriage, or, fantastically, a steam engine. It's a beautiful piece of Victorian legislation that paints a vivid picture of a world where a drunk man and his cow were considered a legitimate and recurring public menace. 48. The Flying Saucer Zoning Law, Châteauneuf-du-Pape, France. In the famous French winemaking town of Châteauneuf-du-Pape, it is illegal for flying saucers to fly over or land in the vineyards. This is not a joke. In 1954, at the height of the UFO craze, the town's mayor issued a formal municipal decree banning the flying over, landing, or taking off of aircraft known as flying saucers or flying cigars. The law was, in fact, a work of pure genius, a publicity stunt that brought worldwide attention to the town and its wine. It was never repealed, meaning any alien visitor planning a trip to France must check local zoning ordinances first, lest their intergalactic wine tour end with their spaceship being impounded. 49. The Single Sip Restriction, Bolivia's sexist law. A shockingly sexist law in Bolivia makes it illegal for a married woman to drink more than one glass of wine in a public place like a bar or restaurant. The supposed justification for this archaic rule is the belief that more alcohol might make her morally and sexually lax. Meanwhile, her husband is free to drink as much as he wants. It's a jaw-droppingly outdated piece of legislation that remains on the books, a legal relic from an era where a woman's morality was apparently measured in sips of Chardonnay. 50. The Do-Not-Frown Decree, New Jersey, USA. While many states in the US ban hanging items from a rearview mirror, see point 23, New Jersey has a legendary, if often debated, law. It is illegal to frown at a police officer. Although the law is more often cited as folklore or a misinterpretation of laws against obstructing justice, the concept itself is perfect. It implies that a simple, nonverbal expression of displeasure, a classic human reaction to being pulled over, could be interpreted as a minor offense. It's the ultimate bureaucratic microaggression, transforming a bad day into a potentially expensive one, all because you couldn't muster a convincing "have a nice day" face. The Verdict and The Epilogue. In the grand theater of human folly, these 50 statutes are not just bizarre rules, they are a strange and hilarious reflection of our history, our fears, and our often clumsy attempts to control the world around us. They prove that legislative intent often starts with high seriousness and ends in pure, unadulterated comedy. We have codified the sublime, the ridiculous, and the entirely impossible, from the outlawing of the frowning face to the aerial zoning of witches. This entire list is a testament to the fact that while nature abhors a vacuum, bureaucracy abhors an unwritten rule. Our official verdict for the most mind-bendingly absurd law on this list goes to Eswatini for regulating the flight altitude of witches. It wins because the law doesn't deny the existence of witches, it simply subjects them to the same air traffic control rules as a Cessna. It's the most pragmatic approach to the supernatural we've ever encountered. But this list is just the beginning. The world is full of legislative madness, and for more journeys into the most absurd laws that made it onto the books, check out this video, Top 10 Most Ridiculous Laws in the World. The video explores more strange and ridiculous laws from around the globe, echoing the bizarre statutes covered in this investigation.